Hey everybody, Some Gadget Guy here, somegadgetguy.com, and it's time we took a look at the camera on the LG G2. This phone is sporting tremendous hardware, and I've been really excited to try it out as it's only the second Android phone this year to sport proper optical image stabilization on the camera and a much higher resolution sensor than the one found on the HTC One. Now, the camera is at its strongest in shaded daylight. Throughout these tests, while the hardware seems capable, the actual camera app makes some puzzling choices in determining exposure. Almost everything you'll shoot will be overexposed in daylight and direct sunlight. For example, these flowers are decently exposed, but you can see how overexposed the background is. This problem is critical whenever your subject is in direct sunlight. You can almost always count on clipping the scene when you let the camera app automatically decide on proper exposure. To get decent daylight video, I almost always had to roll off the brightness setting by at least one full stop. This flower took 2 stops, this one 1.5, this one was -1 stop. The image stabilization helps tracking and walking shots, but it doesn't seem to smooth out the frame as much as a Lumia might. No phones yet have handled this test well, but performance here seems to be on par with the electronic software image stabilization found on the Galaxy S4 and the iPhone 5S. It's not bad, but I was hoping for something a bit more aggressive, and it certainly doesn't live up to LG's advertising. Into our street scene, LG's camera app again subtly disappoints. It's hyperactive focusing performance, which feels very similar to HTC's camera. You'll constantly see the camera app breathing through focus, and even when you hold on a stationary object, the camera never seems to settle down. Focus locks happen quickly, thankfully, but it's distracting watching the camera wander around so much. I just can't quite tell if it's the sensor or the app, but there's a disappointing lack of dynamic range in the video that I shot. The sky is kinda washed out. White cars retain almost no detail. They're almost completely clipped, and whenever a dark car drives by, you can see the sky brighten even more. It's not all bad though. Tapping some of the raw power of the Qualcomm 800, the G2 can shoot 60 frames per second 1080p video. Unfortunately, YouTube can't properly stream 60 frames per second. Unless I'm wrong, someone please correct me down in the comments. I would love to be able to show what 60 FPS looks like. However, the video on display at 60 frames per second is almost unnaturally smooth. It looks like liquid, and it's a pleasantly unique effect for a phone. A side benefit is you can feed it through a proper video editor and slow it down by half, which is kind of fun. It's some of the highest quality slow motion video you can produce off of a phone. Now, I won't spend much time on the zoom. The G2 doesn't do the pixel crop and resample that the iPhone and the Lumia do, so zooming in while shooting video looks kind of a mess. On to our transition test. Even though the app tends to overexpose in bright light, transitions are buttery smooth thanks to that quad-core monster processor. Almost Samsung pleasant. I say almost because this camera will reduce the frame rate in low light, and you can always see a tiny hitch in the video whenever you move from bright to dark as the frame rate scales down. This is another problem that we saw in the HTC camera, and I really wish that LG hadn't pulled their inspiration from that camera app. Otherwise, it's very solid performance when you're moving from dark scenes to bright scenes. Using the flash at night, I see the same tendency to overexpose that we see throughout this camera app. The origami flower is pretty washed out. I don't think any video looks good lit up by a tiny LED, but results on the G2 seem to be slightly below average here. And low light shots are where the camera's defects become most glaring. There's very aggressive noise reduction, which blurs a lot of the detail in the frame. And the frame rate has dropped substantially, making video choppy and stuttery. And with fewer frames per second, it seems to take the camera longer to pull focus. So that constant focus breathing is even more distracting as it takes even longer for the camera to settle down again. It's very disappointing as it gives the video a hazy, sloppy feel. And movement at night is even worse. The app just sort of gives up and everything becomes a mess of motion blur and soft focus, with the noise reduction blurring what little detail you can glean in the scene. To add add to the camera woes, there's no way to pre-focus on a subject before shooting video that I can find. Again, someone please correct me down in the comments if I just overlooked a setting. As far as I can tell, you have to start shooting video first, and then you can tap on the screen to lock focus onto a particular subject. Otherwise, it's fully automatic and the camera just sort of does whatever it wants. Now, for as much as I'm bagging on the camera app, there are a few fun features to play with. There's a video zoom window allowing you to focus in on one object in the frame for a closer look. And the LG G2 does have a dual video mode, which uses both the front and rear facing cameras at the same time. So if you're one of those people like me, who I'm always behind the camera documenting what my friends are up to, I'm never really ever in the shot. So now I can put myself in the shot in this little tiny video down in the bottom right corner. And you can move that video window around so you don't block something that you're actually trying to take a shot of. Now, I've always found it a little tricky to properly line up where I want to put my face and to position the main camera, the rear camera, on the subject that I'm trying to shoot and still get a flattering image of me, but at least I'm able to put myself in the video, so that's pretty cool. In all though, it's really hard to mask my disappointment. The hardware seems more than capable, but the camera software, with its overexposure and focus problems, ultimately detracts from what should be a premiere experience. Now, if you manage the app settings, you can eke out very good results. But that level of hand-holding prevents the LG G2 from being a top-tier photo and video competitor. As always, folks, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next review.